Reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus told his disciples, "If anyone wants to become my followers, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. For those who want to save their lives will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit them if they gained the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will they give in return for their life? For the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay everyone for what they have been done. Truly, I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his glory." The Gospel of the Lord. One of the questions that I often get when I teach Christian education is, how did the concept of the cross come into Christianity? Some people think that the cross came into Christianity at Calvary or at Golgotha on Good Friday. But before the Calvary event, before Jesus was condemned, Jesus already have started introducing to his followers the concept of the cross. There are very many Catholics, or should I say Christians, that are not comfortable with the cross. There are many churches that don't have the cross at all. There are some Christians that think that the concept of the cross is not anything they bargained for. They would rather discuss miracles. They want to talk about the stories of Jesus in other aspects, but not the cross. Peter was one of such people. Yesterday we read how when Jesus talked about going to the cross, he was gradually preparing them for what was going to happen. And in yesterday's gospel reading, in Mark chapter 16, Matthew 16, Peter said to Jesus, "No, that will not happen to you. That will not happen to you. You are not going to go to the cross." And Jesus said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are thinking not heavenly things, but you are thinking earthly things. You are thinking in an earthly way." And so today's gospel, Mark 16:24, Jesus now says to his disciples, if anyone wants to become my followers, they have to accept the cross. In fact, he says they have to deny themselves and take up the cross. You know, for us Catholics, The cross is salvific. Now, what does that mean? It's a theological statement. When we say the cross is salvific, if you want to understand what that statement means, we go to 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 23. Paul was explaining the salvific nature of the cross when he says, for the Jews and for the Gentiles, he says, we preach Christ crucified. He says, that's what we come to preach. He said, we preach Christ who was crucified on the cross. And he says, for the Gentiles, that is foolishness. For many other people, they will not accept that. He says, but that is what we preach. That is why on Good Friday, the whole world stands still for Christ who was crucified. And it is called Good Friday, not Bad Friday. It's called Good Friday because that was the reason why Jesus came. Jesus came into the world to take up the cross, and his blood will be shed on the cross. Now, I have been in classes where people debated, and they said, of all other ways, why did God choose the cross for his only begotten Son? Even Jesus himself, even though he knew, but when the time came, he went into the Garden of Gethsemane and he said to the Father, John's Gospel says, he fell on his knees and he was sweating blood. And he said to God, if it is your will, let this cross not happen. Even Jesus asked that question. And God told him, it is your will. It is God's will that you go to the cross. Now we call that mystery. You know, in the theology of the cross, we say it is mysterious. And so he came to his disciples, he woke them up and he says, let's go, the time has come for him to go accept the cross. So when we talk about the salvific nature of the cross, we are invited to embrace it. To embrace it. You know, the joy of the cross, the reason why the cross is central for us is because Christ paid the price so that we will not have to suffer again. He says, greater love has no man than the one who laid down his life for his friends. He paid the price so that we can go free. And so Jesus in today's text says, those who want to save their lives will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake will keep it. Now, what does that mean? Those who accept the cross, he says, they will keep their lives because he paid the price already. But those who do not accept the cross, he said they will lose their lives. No, in Matthew's gospel, Jesus was talking about going through the narrow way, and he says only very few people will find it. Very many people like to go through the express way, life without the cross. And what does that mean? In our world today, there are homes that hide the cross. There are Catholics who don't want people to know that they are Catholics, because the way you know a Catholic, if you enter the home, is you find a cross somewhere. But people say, no, I want to be politically correct. I don't want people to know that I go to church. I don't want people to even know that I'm Catholic. So they hide the cross. And so Jesus says, those who are ashamed of him here on earth, he will be ashamed of. He says, the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and he will repay everyone for what they have done. Now, one of the grounds of judgment is acceptance of the cross. Now, when we're talking about acceptance of the cross, it extends to the Mass, because the Mass tells the story. The Mass is the celebration of what Jesus Christ did on the cross. He offered his body and blood for the salvation of the world. And we come here every day in thanksgiving for what he did. That's what the Mass is. It's a thanksgiving for what Christ did for us on the cross. And he says, accept it. You know, at the Last Supper, he says to the disciples, he said, remember this. He says, do this always in remembrance of me, what I did for you. That's why we do it. We remember, you know, the word in the biblical lexicon, it's not in the sense of recollection. In the biblical lexicon, it's called the anamnesis. Anamnesis is that it comes to the present. You know, when we do Greek grammar, there's what is called the aorist verb. The action is continuous in the present, even though it happened in the past. Christ continues to save us in the present into the future. So it was not like we read in history and we said Christopher Columbus came in the Black Maria. That's history. But for Jesus Christ, the action happened in the past, and it's happening continually into the future. It never stops. That's why the Mass is ongoing. It will be ongoing because the action is anamnesis, the recollection of it, the effect of it. Let us thank God for the cross, and let us pray that the effect of Christ dying on the cross will continue to affect our lives for our salvation.